Hi. I took a bite right before we went on, and I had peanut butter on my hand, and I went to click, and my hand just slipped right off the right off the mouse there. Sorry about that. We're off to a roaring start today, aren't we? Good to see you on Daily Distinction. And never try to snarf your lunch down right before you go on here, and naturally get ready to go on, and phone rings and everything else. So, hi, everybody. Hope you're doing great today. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me on Daily Distinction. We've got a great topic today. I think it's something we hear all the time. It's about being 1% better. What does that mean? And what's a practical, measurable way that we can go about doing it? So we're going to talk about being 1% better today. And I promise you tomorrow's show will be 1% better than today's. And by the way, as I say every day, but if you take a moment right now, if you're watching, share the show. Please share it. That's the way that we grow, and that's the way that we get better. And I appreciate you sharing it very, very, very much. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for watching today. Thanks to everybody who jumps on here and says hello. I really, really appreciate that. Scott, great to see you. Thanks for saying hi. Thanks for joining again today, and really enjoyed having you on too with the weekend show with Ken and Glenn, and your comments yesterday with Ken Walls. That was really, really terrific. So also want to remind you before we get going on the topic at hand, tomorrow, man, we've got a great show. Stacey Hanke, who's absolutely one of my favorites. She is a terrific speaker, terrific author, and she speaks not only on leadership, because leadership, a lot of folks talk about leadership and management, those kinds of things. Stacey really talks about influence. And the reason I think that's such a great topic is because, spouses try to influence one another. Parents are trying to influence their kids. There are so many levels at which influence is really, really important. We're going to talk to Stacey about that. Obviously, she's got a lot of experience in business, so some of it's going to be about business, but a lot of it's going to be about influence and how it works in everyday life as well. Those of you, I know there's several entrepreneurs that watch, and you folks are trying to influence the people who work for and with you. So it's an important topic. Hey, Jerry, let's be a 1%er. Yeah. Some folks have problems with that connotation, and I don't, and I certainly aspire to be there. So I'm with you. Hey, Randall. Yes, Ken. I thought Ken was fantastic yesterday. I'm prejudiced because Ken has become a good friend, but I just thought what he was talking about in terms of live streaming. If you didn't see yesterday's show, it's still up. You can watch it on YouTube or search on the Daily Distinction channel on Facebook. You can find it, and it really was a terrific show with Ken Walls. He did a great job talking about live streaming and what we think the future is going to be there and all those kinds of things. That was really terrific. Hey, Curtis, always great to see you. Thanks for taking time to be here today. And I always love your profile picture there of the Blue Angels over the Statue of Liberty. Man, that's a fantastic shot. And so many of my friends in different places have sent me when the Blue Angels flew over Nashville or when they flew over my home in Indianapolis and all those kinds of things. So, man, that's such a great shot. Ronaldo, great to see you in Titusville today. Rocket launch history. Oh, man, I'm so glad you're here, sitting in your car. Holy cow, that is so fantastic. If you don't know, you should. The astronauts are going into space today. And I'm old enough to remember as a little kid, what a big deal it was anytime the Gemini or Apollo missions took off. And so what a great thing. You're in Florida watching it. Oh man, I'm jealous. That is so fantastic. I will catch it. One of the greatest channels, if you've got like Roku or Apple TV, to get the NASA channel, holy cow. Some of the video on that is just amazing. We spend so much of our time, binging television shows, but for goodness sakes, some of the things that NASA has on is just spectacular. Well worth watching. Oh, no kidding, Scott. Wow. That's just extraordinary. That's incredible. I've seen the Blue Angels like a couple things that I've done, sporting events and things like that. But man, to have them go right over your house, holy cow, that's very, very awesome. So today we're talking about 1%. And 1%. Okay, we hear 1% better. Many of you know my football team is the Indianapolis Colts, and Coach Frank Reich, who I just think is fantastic, and that's one of his mantras. That's his goal for the team. Is that every practice your goal should be to get 1% better, be 1% better than you were yesterday. My great pal Jason Bradshaw, who is in charge of both the customer experience and marketing for Volkswagen Group Australia, talks about how do we get 1% better today at our dealerships and how we serve our customers. If we could get 1% better today, let's focus on doing that. So talking about 1% is not anything new. It's been around for a while, but what does it mean? I mean, 1% better means what? What does it mean to you to be 1% better? What does that mean? So that's what we want to focus on is to really get down and think about how do we make that happen and what does that mean? Ronaldo, there you go. There's if you're looking for the website for what we were talking about NASA, it's nasa.gov/TV. Thanks for sharing that. Hey, Dan, good to see you. One of the astronauts is just napping on. Can you imagine? Can you imagine you're getting ready to be shot into space and you're just kind of taking a nap, ready to go? I just can't imagine. Talk about being 1% better and how things work out. Many years ago, I was given a speech in Orlando, and they had another speaker after me, but it was supposed to be a big secret, right? And you'll know how many years ago this was when I finished the story. But it was supposed to be, and I didn't know, right? So I give my speech, and it went really well. And the CEO of the company, big agricultural company, came up to me and he said, "Hey, could you stick around for a little bit longer?" And I said, "Yeah, I never try to run out. I want to see who your surprise speaker was." And the CEO said, "You know something? I'm a horrible speaker." He said, "Would you do us the honor of, would you introduce our surprise speaker?" Of course, happy to help. But who is it and where can I get a copy of his introduction? And they said, "It's Jim Lovell, who, as you will remember, Tom Hanks played in the incredible Ron Howard movie, Apollo 13. So now I get to introduce Jim Lovell, which means I'll get a chance to hear his speech and even maybe, get a chance to meet him or briefly when I introduce him. So I was starstruck. I mean, seriously, the president of the United States could have walked in and I would not have been as starstruck as meeting an astronaut, right? So I meet Lovell and introduce him, and the movie had not come out yet, right? So he gives his speech, and I go up to shake his hand after the speech, and he doesn't say "great introduction" or he doesn't say "it was good to meet you." He grabs me by the elbow and he says, "Do you have a rental car?" "Yeah, I've got a rental car. I was heading back to the airport this afternoon." He said, "Oh man," he said, I am also doing a thing with these folks at a reception over at the Cape, which means I would have to ride the bus with everybody." And he said, he said, "I'd rather just hang with you and talk about speaking because I'm hoping to do more speeches." Well, I called home and, I said to my wife, "Honey, I'm coming home tomorrow. All right. Well, I ain't getting home today. I'm coming home tomorrow." So Jim Lovell and I, in my rental car, drive from Orlando to the Cape. It was just one of the great experiences ever, just talking to him. Well, anyway, so the speech finishes up, or the event finishes up. Well, now the meeting professional who had booked him knew that we had ridden over in the car together. And so he asked if he could ride back with us to Orlando in the rental car. So it'd be the three of us. And, what are you going to say? And Lovell and I both, "Yeah, that'd be great." And so we're waiting on the meeting planner to sign everything and pay the whole bit. And Lovell is leaning up against the rental car. And it was one of those nights where the moon was just whiter than white. I mean, it was just a beautiful moon. And it was where it's just so white, it's almost colorless. You know what I mean? It was just beautiful in a clear night. And Lovell looked up at it and he said, that's really about the color it is when you're up there. I went, he said it like you would say, the McDonald's sign, they all have golden arches. He just said it just like it was, he said it like he was talking about, in Indianapolis, they have a circle. In Vegas, they have casinos. Just like, and he's talking about the moon when you're up there. Now, as you know, Lovell never landed on the moon. And thank goodness, what an incredible guy. He's still alive and still amazing. But he could not have been nicer. It was just absolutely amazing. Hey, here's the funny end of the story. On the drive over, he was talking about how he wasn't booking enough speeches, but the movie with Tom Hanks playing him was about to come out. And I said, you don't have to ask me anything. There's nothing I can tell you. Are you kidding me? When this movie comes out, you'll never have to worry about it again. It'll never. And he almost thought I was like patronizing. He didn't quite believe it. And just as luck would have it, maybe 9 months after the movie came out, sitting on a flight, going to a speech. The seat next to me is open. And right as they're about to close the door, this man runs onto the plane and he plops down the seat and he looks over and sees that it's me. And he starts laughing. And it was Jim Lovell. And he didn't say a word. He opened up his briefcase, and that same calendar that he had showed me 6-9 months earlier didn't have much on it. Now it was like every day. It just looked like scribbles on every day. And he said, yeah, you're right about that. What an incredible guy. What an incredible guy. Hey, Kirby, so great to see you. It's great. Hey, Ronaldo, it was just what a blessing. It was just such a fluke. So, hey, Mike we're back on the 1%, and I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's called Penguin Steps. It's a minimal yet realistic doable change, and it's at an increment. So I started thinking, okay, so what does that really, what's it really mean? I mean, what does 1% better mean? How could we, it's a great term, right? I'm going to be 1% better. Dan LeClaire, who's watching, realizes if I'm 1% better on the golf course today, I'm shooting 118, maybe. There are certain things that are very measurable. Is your golf score 1% better today than it was yesterday? Is your heart rate 1% better today when you're bicycling than it was yesterday? There's some things that are easy to measure, but other things that aren't as easy to see if we're making that kind of progress. So what does that mean? I'm going to suggest to you there's another way to look at it. If we would spend 1% of our time on improvement, it might be logical to think that we would correspondingly get 1% better. Do we have to spend 10% of our time trying to get 1% better? That seems pretty inefficient, doesn't it? So if you stop and think about it, if we spent 1% of our waking hours working to get 1% better, that would be a pretty good, it's what you put in, you get out, right? I put in the effort to get 1% better, I get 1% out, and each day I'm doing that. So what does that really mean? Well, 1%, if you sleep 8 hours a night, and I know many of us don't, but if you sleep 8 hours a night, 1% of your waking hours is about 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So 1% better can mean you spend 10 minutes every day in an activity that improves your performance. It's not that we're trying to get 100% better. It's that we're trying to find a way to put 1% of our time getting 1% better. So the question is, what do we do? And that's something we've talked about here quite a bit, right? In terms of that's part of why we're doing this. Your investment of time watching this and thinking about these things could be part of what you're doing to get 1% better every day. It might be that you listen to a Jim Rohn Audible book. It might be that you download our course on distinction from distinctionnation.com and you work on that. I know that Phil Sorrentino, that watches most days, has completed that, and several other of you have downloaded it. So, and by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're a new viewer, it's absolutely free. You just go to distinctionnation.com. It's a 14-day audio program, and there's a video included with it as well. All you do is just download it. You listen to one segment every day for the next 2 weeks, and at the end of the 2 weeks, you've got your plan for personal distinction. You've aligned your priorities with your goals, with your daily activities, and you go through that, and it can work to help you create personal distinction, which I'm going to suggest to you is going to help make you 1% better. So the challenge for us is, will we spend 10%, or will we spend 10 minutes, 1% of our day, we're 1% better? And here's the other thing I'm going to suggest. It's got to be spent doing something. Don't get me wrong. It's great to think about what we'll do, but it has to be spent doing something. So, for example, as I was talking about my friend Jason Bradshaw helping to make Volkswagen dealerships better in Australia, it means that dealers would spend 10 minutes every day working with their service department, for example, on how they could improve customer service and customer relationships. One of the things that I've seen happen there is that now they do something special. For example, if a woman brings her car in, they leave a rose on the front seat. If a guy brings a car in, they leave something related to what he wants on the front seat. That's at least 1% better. Now, when you go in, let's say you buy a car, you know how they've got to prep it and get it ready for delivery. Now, when they do delivery, they put a big red ribbon like it's a Christmas present, and it's sitting in front of the dealership when you come to pick up your new car. That's at least 1% better. My friend Joel Weldon has a great line that he's talked about forever, and he stands in front of an audience, and he will say, will everybody here that has been bitten by an elephant raise your hand? You've been bitten by an elephant, raise your hand. Well, obviously nobody raises their hand, right? So then he said, oh, interesting. He said, so raise your hand if you've ever been bitten by a mosquito. Well, everybody raises their hand. He said, see, it's the little things that get you. I love that. It's the little things that get you. So that's what we got to focus on. That's what we got to focus on, are those little things that we can spend our time doing. Hey, Phil, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate you going through the program, and I really appreciate you doing that. Hey, Jeff, California should change the tax rate to 1%. Yeah, that would be better than what? The highest state tax rate in California, highest is like what, 13.3%? That's why we got so many Californians here in Las Vegas, because you give yourself a 13% raise going across the border. So, hey, Pam, yeah, please say something so I know that you're here. Here, all you got to do, type it out. Thank you for saying that. I love it when folks go, hey, at least I'm here, right? So the question is, what are you going to do? And how can you make a difference? And are you willing to spend just 10 minutes in some activity every day to improve your performance? When you do that, you will get 1% better. Those are the keys to that constant and never-ending improvement. The Japanese called it Kaizen. It's the power of just moving forward, just making it better. You know, it's interesting to me. I've got so many friends in the music business, and you know, whether it's friends like, and it sounds like a name drop, but you seen Joe Bonsall on here a few weeks ago with the Oak Ridge Boys that are in the Hall of Fame and have so many number 1 hits. My pals in Diamond Rio and that. And you know, what's always interesting is those guys are always looking forward, never looking back. I mean, they reminisce at times. I don't mean that, but that's one of the things that impresses me so much about so many musicians is that they, you know, in concerts, they play their hits because they know that's what their customers really want. But they don't sit around talking about it all the time. They're talking about what new music can they come up with and what new show can they create and how do they improve the staging and what do they do to really make a difference? And I think we need to be more like that in business, because in business, too many times, you know, you have something that works and man, we just keep doing it until we grind it in the ground. Let's spend at least 1% of our time looking forward. Let's spend 1% of our time thinking about what we can do, not what we have done. If we spend 1% of our time looking forward, planning forward, getting excited about what's in front of us, then some really, really great things can absolutely happen. That's the path that we take, I think, to get 1% better, to get a little bit better at what we do every single day. The consistent work, the consistent application, the consistent practice is what's really great. It's interesting to me when you look at some of the well-respected professions, like a doctor's office or a financial advisor's office or a lawyer's office. Those are typically called a practice. And, as a kid, I always thought that was bad because, well, why would you practice? Aren't you supposed to be good enough? You don't have to practice anymore. And as a kid, don't you kind of think that? I'm going to practice the piano until I get good enough. I don't have to take these lessons anymore. I don't have to practice anymore. Yet every great piano player I've ever known practices all the time. I've got a buddy that's a steel guitar player, and I don't think anybody sits and just noodles at their instrument more than steel guitar players do. It's just incredible. But yeah, for many of us, we've given up that practice, that practice that makes us good at what I found it fascinating years ago. I had the chance to interview Meryl Streep, and she talked about her acting coach, and it kind of took me aback to think, you're Meryl Streep. What? And I found that was not uncommon, that whether it's Robert Duvall or whether Robert De Niro or Meryl Streep or Tom Hanks, they all continue to get coached. They all continue to practice their craft. And yeah, exactly. And Jerry, part of that practice, I think, means that we don't remain static. In other words, when I go to my doctor, I don't want to see him pull out something from the 1970s and say that's that's what he's given me. I mean, I want to know that they're on the cutting edge, that they continue to learn. Harvard said there were three aspects that define a professional. Interesting, right? The three things that define a professional. Number one, you get paid for what you do, right? I mean, that's part of what we think about in sports. Amateurs don't get paid and professionals do. So part of what makes you a professional is obviously you get paid for what you do. Second is there is a specialized body of knowledge. So in other words, the lawyer knows more about the law than the person on the street. The doctor knows more about medicine than the person on the street. So there's a specialized body of knowledge. And sometimes even within those specialties, there are higher degrees of specialties. So for example, the cardiologist knows more about the heart than the general practitioner. There are additional levels of learning. So the professionalism even increases as the body of knowledge becomes more specialized. That's part of a professional. Third thing, a program of continuing education. That's the one most overlooked, is that a professional not only has a specialized body of knowledge and not only get paid for the use of that knowledge, but they continue to learn and grow and practice in their craft. And without all three, you don't qualify as a professional. So someone can claim they're a professional, but if they aren't continuing to learn about what makes their practice work, they really aren't. They've got to make the commitment to get at least 1% better. Hey, Dan, our race across America team a few years back averaged about 18.1 miles for 3,100 miles. Team in front was 1% faster for 7 days. Put them 3 hours in front of us. 1% better. Just over 7 days made a 3-hour difference in finishing. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. That's absolutely fascinating, Dan. That's incredible. By the way, 3,100 miles on a bike is what my buddy did. I'm worn out. I'm worn out thinking about that. I don't know that I could average that driving. So just so you know. Hey, Tim says, I used to stress to my sales teams, if we each do a little, we'll all do a lot. Yeah, exactly. See, I think that's part of the problem with professional development and self-improvement is that so many times we think we got to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just blow everything up. And here's the new way and start over. That probably, I mean, think about diet books for a second. Diet books are what sells? It's the new diet. It's the new way to eat. It's the new way to lose weight. And man, we just grab onto that because we're looking for that silver bullet. Oh, if we just did this instead of that, now we're going to, but instead it's, if I exercised 1% more and ate 1% healthier, it probably worked out, right? And to your point, Tim, I think you're absolutely spot on. I mean, I want to put that back up. I love that. If we each do a little, we will all do a lot. That is so good. Hey, Phil, 15-minute quarters in a college football game. One game, an hour, 7 hours. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Think about how many thousands of hours go into preparing for those 7 hours on the clock, right? It's that preparation that makes it so important. A book a week's part. Curtis, what a great approach to it. Think about it. 50 books a year. 50. I mean, that's a book a week. 52 books a year. Hey, even if you take a 2-week vacation, that's spectacular. I posted on my personal Facebook page, a buddy of mine, Tom Webster, that's commented here on a few of our programs, put up a thing and it's 1,000 books. It takes a while to go through. It's 1,000 books. And you see how many of these 1,000 hugely selling books, and even classic books like the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer's on there, the Steinbeck books, things like that. Dan, things you and I were reading at Franklin College. And it's absolutely fascinating to go through it. It kind of discouraging in a way, because you also get a sense of all these great books you've never read. So it's funny that you say that, Curtis, because it's one of the things I was just thinking yesterday. I've got to pick. I tend to read in terms of business and professional development, personal development, and that's something I have to expand. That's really great. Pam, you nailed it. The only winner in a diet book is the author. How true is that? Yes, Randall, this is, you betcha. This is the way that you're doing it. Now you're asking a biased source, I will admit, but I appreciate that. Hey, Jerry, lean business practice teaches you to be a little better today than you were yesterday, a little better tomorrow. You do that every day. And yeah, it is. It's astounding the results that you can create. So that's all for us today. It's your challenge now to go out and get that 1% better and create those astounding results. Tomorrow, right here, we're going to have Stacy Hankey. She's going to be talking about influence and leadership. I'm really looking forward to that. I know it's a show that you're going to want to see. I would really appreciate it if you would share the program as we're going out of here. And I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow on our next edition of Daily Distinction. We'll see you then.